Man, it's just so good to hear you live in this building. I'm like, got goosebumps over here.
Brother, I appreciate
My tattoo is starting to grow. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Maybe that's what they say, add a word, get a third. Maybe that's a new song. I don't know. Welcome back to Portland.
Thank you, man. It's good to be back in Portland. It's good to be back in Portland. It's been too long, man.
Yeah, it's been way too long. In fact, it's been 5 years.
5 years, wow.
The last time you were here with us, you played our Country Fest down along the waterfront.
That's exactly right.
That night was a little nerve-wracking. We had a riot downtown.
I was there. I remember that.
But,
I remember videoing that.
Yeah, we all had to hide and do all these things because we weren't used to it. But now 2020 came and kicked his ass and said, that was nothing.
Amateur hour. Yeah.
Right?
I remember videoing that whole thing. I was like, I called my wife and I was like, I think I'm in a riot, but I'm not sure because it's pretty friendly so far. But they're right next to each other screaming really loud, but everybody's pretty cool.
It was crazy. It was insane. It was nuts. Yeah, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And at that time, 5 years ago, you were touring so much.
Yeah.
How many dates were you doing in a year?
Well, that varies. You know, in the cycle we're in right now, we'll do a lot of radio stuff. We'll do some shows like here in the studio.
Sure.
And we'll do some things like yesterday we had a live at the Vineyard in Napa for a bunch of, it was a really cool event. And then tomorrow we'll do a thing in Spokane. So we mix in a lot of that kind of stuff into a regular tour season, which is about 75 to 80 regular full band shows, like anywhere from St. Louis to Miami, Florida, just a full band, full on show tour date.
Right.
So usually on those kind of cycles, it winds up being about 110 to 120 shows a year.
Man, that's insane.
Yes,
that's some serious touring.
It's a lot. It can kind of wear you down a little bit, but I think for the most part, everybody kind of stays in a headspace nowadays where, especially after the last couple of years, everybody's like, I'm tired, I'm so worn out, but I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much. I'm glad we're playing, man. I'm glad to be playing music. Nothing wrong with DoorDash, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that yet.
I hear you. Well, it's funny because that brings us to the next question. I mean, 2020, it shut down the entire world for a lot of people. I mean, people lost their jobs. We went through changes here at Alpha Media. And I know a lot of musicians lost their gigs in Nashville, didn't have bands that toured because no one was touring.
Right.
So it was a bummer. And one of the things that I wanted to ask the question was, during that time when you had downtime, we saw people, I'll use Brad Paisley and Keith Urban, they were trying to do shows online and Facebook and stuff. And then Luke Combs just climbed into a studio and just writing like an animal. What did Joe do?
None of that.
All right, next question. Anyways, way to go, Danny, you dummy.
In fairness, I'll tell you what, I don't get to do dad stuff quite a lot. Like I said, we do anywhere between 80 and 120 shows in the year, so I don't do a lot of dad stuff.
Right.
I get to be ice cream dad. When I come home, it's ice cream and pizza, and let's do something fun. And all right, I gotta go. So I got to really plug in and be dad, and I got to take the girls to school every morning. I got to pick them up every afternoon. I got to do basketball practice. I got to do all the fun arts and crafts stuff that they do. I plugged into their homework, which I hated, because it made me, like third grade math. I'm like, this should be easier to a man of my age. I've lived a lot of life. I've had a lot of money. You would think I'd know how to do money right now. But it made me feel really dumb. So I took the courses with her.
Yeah.
Relearned third grade geometry, which is basically basic. No, I got to do a lot of that kind of stuff. My wife, with the extra time it gave her when I was doing kids stuff, and I was like just dove in with the kids, she's like, all right, I don't have anything to do. So she just started selling britches.
That's cool.
She started this thing online, and she just started selling this kind of athletic wear stuff, and she kind of got into it because it's a girl thing, around the house, and she started, like I said, as she puts it, selling underwear, selling britches.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, as long as it ain't your underwear.
Yeah. Well, but you also, not to say that you didn't do anything, because what you did was fantastic. I mean, to spend time with family, quality time like that, because when you're touring that many shows, for all the times that you missed, you made up for the last 2 years. Tried
to as much as possible, and I tell you what, it's one of the hardest things to go from touring all the time in a moving bus, getting up early for flights, staying up late for the shows. And go from that kind of whirlwind life to plug in, be up at 7 a.m., take the girls to school, do stuff all day long to get ready for when they come home. Go from that dad back to back on the tour bus. It was 6 a.m. flight, all this kind of stuff. It was really hard to do because I miss them every minute of the day I'm gone.
Right.
And I was like, God, I had no idea how much I love my family
Right.
until I started missing them again.
It's magical, that's for sure. Speaking of touring, this is funny. I know you're going back on the new tour because you got the new single "Good Day for Living."
Yeah.
So you've got a new single, new label with the same old friend, Mr. Benny Brown.
Yeah.
And working with Jason Sellers. Does anybody know the name Jason Sellers? Okay. Fantastic songwriter in Nashville.
Yes.
Was married to Leanne Womack for years. Wrote "Sunny in '75" with you.
Yeah.
And he's just, God, the guy's phenomenal. What's it like working with those two again? Because you were with Benny at a former label, but
Right.
he's like, hey, I'm kidnapping you and taking you over here.
Right.
And now you're the headline of the show, so it's awesome.
It's so great. First of all, Benny Brown is a wonderful human being. He's been like an angel to my family. He signed me to Broken Bow, the group, Red Bow Records, back in 2012, I think, or 11. And we've had some great success together. He's the one that talked me into Sunny in '75. Jason Sellers, if those of you do remember his voice, he's a very high singer, and he's had a very strong Vince Gill sounding pop sounding almost voice, but an incredible vocalist. And he sang the demo on Sunny in '75 when they brought it in to have this A&R meeting. They played the song. Hey man, why don't you cut this? And this guy's like, Sunny in '75, and I was like, oh, this is not me at all. This feels like you should get a guy that can belt, maybe Jason should do this song, But the label was like, look, just go in the studio, play with it a little bit, try to make it you, and if it's terrible, we'll junk it, we'll throw it in the trash. But it might be something special if you can turn that really super energetic pop sound and kind of just put your flavor into it. It might work out to be a hit, and that's what we got.
Yeah, well, it worked. It definitely worked.
To answer your question, it is wonderful to be a part of Benny Brown's world again, because I think the man truly understands me, and I think that's why there's always a trust level with him, and he's the reason I tried that song. And Jason Sellers is a great songman because he's a great songwriter. He understands the A&R process, which is marrying artists to great songs, the fit, that kind of thing. So it's a great situation to be in, man.
Yeah, it sounds cool. The touring, now that you're back on the road, I saw this today, like I said earlier, and I thought it was hysterical. Do you get nervous when you look at the tour dates and the tour names of the tours when you're going on the tour? Like the actual stops. So here's, this is crazy. I'd be going, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Lake Fanny Hoedown. Hazard Fest.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that one's going to be fun. Farm Tech Fest.
Yeah.
And then Op Rattlesnake Rodeo.
That one was weird.
I'd be passing those up.
I thought it was just like a rattlesnake themed rodeo, like a roundup rodeo.
Right.
Matter of fact, they have a famous roundup here in Oregon.
Yeah.
Pendleton Roundup.
Pendleton Roundup.
So I thought it was like that, like maybe rattlesnake's the local mascot or something. But when we got there, it's just a dude like, hey, you want to pet some rattlesnakes? Like,
no.
This is a real roundup of rattlesnakes? I can't believe I took this date. No, it worked out.
That's what I'm wondering.
It worked out really well because the crowd was great. The event was really fun. I don't think we carried any snakes accidentally home with us that I know of, so that was good. Nobody got bit.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be looking at those going, yeah, pass on that one for sure. All right,
weird.
couple more because I know you guys really want to talk about or hear about music and sing the music with Joe. One last question for you. What is your biggest regret and why?
Oh, personally or?
Business-wise, personally?
Okay. That's probably a two-part deal then. I would say personally I have a couple. Biggest regret, I didn't finish high school. I was so focused on wanting to go to Nashville and being in a band and start a music career because I saw my education not doing me any favors with the fields that I wanted to go into. I want to be a baseball player. I was a pretty good baseball player in high school. And I wanted to be a singer. I thought that was probably the path that I would go. And neither one of those things really told me that you need to have a lot of education for, which I was totally naive about it. That's absolutely not true. You should have a lot of education to be in the music business. I find myself being the least educated person in every room that I'm in. So I did myself a disservice, and I regret not finishing out that and even going for a higher degree. Not joining the military, not giving the military a look when I was a young man, able, and I thought that was probably one of the things that I would look back on my life and go, man, I sure could have left a legacy to my kids that was just a little cooler than I'm going to leave it. So that's another thing. I have a lot of pride in my country and everything. So that was one thing I wanted to do. So that's personally, and I got a long list. So
Well,
I'm
we'll
gonna
just
bullet
stop you
point
there.
it really quick.
No, you're good.
Top couple.
We just learned a lot about Joe Nichols.
Yeah. You got some time? I got a book.
And it's for sale at the merch table.
Regrets, chapter 37.
Bucket list, channel 35.
Let's see. You know, as far as music goes, you know, I still make this guy laugh. He's been with me a long time. Musically, I think there's songs that got away that I probably, you know, should have stuck with. I probably should have given a chance to. I know I had Some Beach, the Big Blake single. I had that right after What's a Guy Got to Do, I think. I had it on hold and I was going to do it. And I decided that, man, I don't know, What's a Guy Got to Do? And I don't want to sing another silly song. Mind you, I was about to cut Tequila Makes Her Clothes Fall Off. But I was like, I don't want to get too silly or nothing. This tequila song sounds pretty serious. And so just, you know, dumb reasoning back then, just dumb.
Right.
So I passed on a great song, and it being a huge hit for Blake. Another song that really just tears me to pieces that I didn't cut was a Brooks and Dunn song called "It's Getting Better All the Time."
Great song.
Great song, and I was in it, and it's kind of the opposite of the Blake thing. I was at the end of recording an album, and the album was full of ballads, like really heavy ballads. And I had like 3 tempos on the whole record. I'm like, man, if I'm going to cut anything more for this record, it's got to be something tempo. So I love this song, but maybe to be around for the next record when we start cutting. It was like snatched it up, Brooks and Dunn cut it, and had a beautiful cut on it and a big hit. And so I felt terrible about that, you know. And then one of my own songs that I cut on Real Things back in 2007, I love this song called Who Are You When I'm Not Looking? And I was like, I'm in love with this song. I think it's perfect because, you know, in my experience, the women I know love that you're interested in them, love that you want to know about them. You think about them when they're not around. And so the lyric made total sense. I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And it was a pretty track. We cut it, and it was a very smooth track. And I wanted it so bad for the first single. And the label at the time, we were kind of in a forced marriage. I didn't want to be there, and they didn't see eye to eye to me. And you know, it was one of those things where I was like, please, can we do this? And they're like, not a hit. I'm like, oh my God. I remember walking into the studio. I had to do some recording with these very people that told me that wasn't a hit. And it was about a year later, and I walked in with a chart that had Blake Shelton at #1 with Who Are You and I'm Not Looking. And I gave it to that guy, and I'm like, look, what's not a hit today? The last record I did with that guy, too.
Yeah. He's probably Uber driving somewhere right now, too.
So we talk about regrets. I probably should have stuck that in his face. Look at this.
We missed another
Your
number
fault.
1. That's crazy. Well, let's introduce the band real quick so we
Okay.
know who's joining us tonight for the fun.
This over here is on the lead guitar. This is Josh Henson. He's also our band leader. He covers all the stuff we do live. Yeah. Incredible player.
Yeah.
He's got a great resume, but this guy, man, the work he does every night is you can't replace it. He's a great player, great guy, and like I said, he's got an incredible sound. You'll hear it tonight. Matter of fact, we're gonna let him do a few songs, and yeah. But he's wonderful. And this over here is Brian Spradlin.
Brian, okay.
He plays acoustic guitar. He's been with me. He started with me back in 1996 or 1997. I've known this guy that long. When I had long hair down to my, down here. I didn't have the mullet, but I was just as bad. Ricky Lynn Gregg hair, I think. If y'all remember that name. Yeah. But he started with me then. I think we did some tour dates. We were supporting a thing called Walmart Parking Lot Social Club and 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Wow.
An independent record deal I had. I was still in Arkansas and had me a band put together. And this guy jumped on the bus and he thought my dad was the steel guitar player because we picked him up. I should back this up. We picked him up because my guitar player decided he didn't want to tour anymore. And so we got 40 miles out of town.
Right.
Heading to our first show. Yeah, I dropped my pick. Sorry about that. I do that
You're
all
good.
the time on purpose. So we're 40 miles out of town on the first leg of this tour, and the guitar player goes, I'm homesick. I want to go home. Drop me off at this rest area. And we're like, we're on the road already. You probably should have mentioned this yesterday.
Yeah.
Or even 40 minutes ago. And he's like, nah, I'm getting off here, and we'll see y'all later. Hope it works out. And I was like, damn. So we called a friend in Nashville, and I was like, man, you know anybody that's a great guitar player that's available in like 10 hours? They can get on a bus and do the show with me tomorrow. The guy calls, a great guy, goes, I know just the man, brother. And he called Brian. He was working in a factory. He picked up his guitar, his amp, and everything, got on the bus. overnighted down to Florida. We're all riding down there, and I'm scared to death. I went to bed, and he's up there in the front lounge just practicing over and over these songs. And he looks at my dad. My dad was touring with me that back then, and thinking my dad was the steel guitar player. He says, "Man, what key is Walmart Parking Lot Social Club in? Is that A?" My dad goes, "I have no idea." He's like, "What kind of band am I in where nobody knows what key these songs are in? What about this song?" Not either. I don't know either.
Oh,
Shouldn't
man.
you be practicing like me?
That's crazy.
Crazy introduction, but that was a long, long time ago. Yeah, we've been through a lot of stuff together.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations for all three of you. You guys make it look so good. Definitely. Y'all ready for some more music? Let's go.
All right.